Talk 1580.
2 years ago, on Juneteenth 2021, KBLA Talk 1580 launched with a promise to give disenfranchised fellow citizens a voice in current political, economic, social, and cultural issues with an empowering, sustainable, and restorative language.
Everybody's got a little light under the sun, under the sun, under the sun.
As we enter our third year, we are delighted that KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerges as the talk station of choice for African American listeners. In a vigorous public opinion research study, the 2023 African American Media Issue Survey finds that for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 remains the most trusted, credible, and reliable media source in Southern California for African Americans and beyond. Furthermore, 80% of those surveyed agree that outlets like KBLA Talk 1580 provide honest and authentic content about the issues most important to the Black community directly from Black journalists who understand the issues that need to be addressed. At KBLA Talk 1580, we remain committed to curating conversations that matter to you. Thank you for your continued support. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. The station that sounds like the city looks. The city looks.
And it is the Friday edition of Areva Martin in Real Time. Avi Bernard here with you every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific. So glad to have you with us. Let's get you caught up. In an updated indictment handed down yesterday, prosecutors allege that Donald Trump asked a staffer to delete camera footage at his Florida estate in an effort to obstruct the federal investigation into his possession of classified documents. The indictment includes new counts of obstruction and willful retention of national defense information. Prosecutors also added a third defendant to the case, Mar-a-Lago property manager Carlos de Oliveira, who they say schemed with Trump and his valet, Walt Nada, to conceal the footage from investigators. Carly Russell, the Alabama nursing student who claimed she was kidnapped for 49 hours in a stunt she later confessed was a lie, was charged with 2 misdemeanors in connection with the hoax. The arrest warrant was issued earlier today. She surrendered to authorities, accompanied by her attorney at the Hoover City Jail, to face 2 misdemeanor charges of false reporting to law enforcement authorities and falsely reporting an incident. The charges carried a bond of $1,000 each and are punishable by up to a year in jail and a $6,000 fine if convicted. Russell was released from jail after posting bond. The bitter fight between Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Rep. Byron Donalds over a line about slavery in the state's revised African American history standards is infuriating several prominent Black conservatives. Several said they fear the issue will play into Democrats' characterization of Republicans as favoring a whitewashing of American history. Most saw it as an unforced error at the time when Black Republicans feel they've been making significant strides within the party. We are going to be talking to one of those such prominent Black conservatives on this show in this hour. Republican presidential candidate Tim Scott yesterday criticized competitor Ron DeSantis on his support for Florida education standards requiring students to be instructed on the benefits of slavery. The South Carolina senator said he hoped that every person in our country, and certainly running for president, would appreciate that slavery had no benefits to enslaved people. Scott said there is no silver lining in slavery. Slavery was really about separating families, about mutilating humans, and even raping their wives. It was just devastating. The Florida standards backed by Governor DeSantis require instructors to teach middle schoolers that slaves developed skills which, in some instances, could be applied for their personal benefit. President Joe Biden signed an executive order this morning to implement military justice reforms aimed at strengthening how the military handles sexual assault cases. The executive order gives decision-making powers to independent military prosecutors in serious cases, including sexual assault, instead of the victim's commanders. In the past, victims have been often at the mercy of their commanders to decide whether to take their assault claims seriously. Members of Congress have battled with military leaders for years over the issue, arguing that commanders sometimes ignored charges or incidents in their units to protect those accused of offenses. Military leaders argued that bringing in independent prosecutors could erode the chain of command. When we come forward, we are going to be talking to Donna Jackson. She is the Director of Membership Development at Project 21 Black Leadership Network. And I want to get into that conversation with Donna and with Dr. Fletcher and Danny Griffin about what we were talking about earlier with the Republicans kind of being at odds with each other, at least in the state of Florida, about those slavery education standards. We're going to have that conversation when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Have you heard about Lendistry? Lendistry is a national Black-led small business lender that is headquartered right here in LA. Once you've started your business, Lendistry provides flexible financing options starting at $50,000 to help you access the affordable capital needed to grow. Visit lendistry.com/KBLA to learn more.
Want my secret for how to prep for summer getaways and get-togethers and get everything for less? Get to Kohl's. I just shopped their friends and family sale and saved an extra 20% on sunny day essentials, like tees and tanks for my family for $9.99, a cute pair of shorts for me, and everything we needed to set up our patio. So get to Kohl's and save on cool finds for hot days. You'll thank me later. Select styles, 20% offer ends July 30th. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohls.com for details.
Discover credit cards automatically double all the cash back you earn at the end of your first year, which means... Wait, hold up. Question for the audio engineer.
Go ahead.
Did I read that right? Discover automatically doubles all your cash back?
Yeah, that's what the script says.
So if I get a Discover card right now, I can earn twice the cash back.
Apparently. Wait! Unlimited first-year cash back match, only from Discover. See terms and learn more at discover.com/match.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action is the youth component of the impactful CBO, known as the Community Coalition. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action has chapters at almost every South LA high school. Say Yeah, as they are popularly known, is located at 80th and Vermont, but serves young people all over South LA. Under the COCO umbrella, they train youth organizers, help underserved scholars prepare for college, and work with students to help them gain admission to top universities. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action fosters teen activism, where young people have led campaigns moving tens of millions of dollars to South LA schools and forcing officials to make AP classes available to students in under-resourced institutions. SCEL scholars have taken part in the March on Washington, been published in major news outlets, and been elected to city council. Long before she was mayor, Karen Bass started the program when she founded the Community Coalition. To donate, volunteer, or enroll a student in South Central Youth Empowered Through Action, please visit cocsouthla.org. cocsouthla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And it's the Friday edition of Areva Martin in real time. Avi Bernard with you every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific. Joined by our Dr. Sean Fletcher from San Jose State University is still with us, and so is Danny Griffin, educator, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker. And very pleased to be joined by someone I have known for a while, Donna Jackson, Director of Membership Development, Project 21 Black Leadership Network. Welcome to the show, Donna. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, always.
All right, Donna, Miss Jackson. Let's talk about this fight going on between Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Rep. Byron Donalds over a line about slavery in the state's revised African American history standards. So I'm sure you're aware of this tussle. What side do you come down on? Are you and I know because of your organization is a 501c3, you're not able to endorse candidates. So I'm not asking you to do any of that. But they are having a fundamental argument about um, about what standards should be taught in schools. And so, where do you come down? Do you come down on the DeSantis side that these standards are accurate, or do you come down on the Rep. Byron Donalds side that, and to be clear, I don't agree with Rep. Byron Donalds on almost everything he says. He still agrees with most of the standards. He just doesn't agree with that one line. So where do you come down on this, Donna?
Well, okay, I'm looking at this from a probably different perspective than a lot of people are. I'm not sold on any particular candidate. And so, I'm not going to endorse anyone in particular. I'm open to everything. But I think that too many people hear that we did slaves a favor by bringing them here. But I view this, and even the conversation we're having right now, differently. I think that it's important for people to realize, even when you're talking about impoverished people in this country, that slaves, they possess the intellectual capacity to be able to develop marketable skills. I think that we need to make sure that that is clear, because too many people think that they were helpless, they were like mules, they weren't capable of doing anything. At any given time, in any point in history, during slavery, slaves were capable of creating their own society. Slaves were capable of creating their own institutions. These were very intelligent individuals. I mean, you think about individuals have been taken from their country to a new land, learning a new culture, learning a new language, and then many times they created underground institutions like teaching each other how to read, how to write. Mm-hmm. They learned the laws of the land. And so the fact that we're having this conversation, that is it possible that they develop skills that we're not talking about enough, because we're not talking about enough the fact that these individuals were very intelligent. Slaves brought lawsuits. That means they weren't stupid.
But Donna, yeah, I absolutely, we agree on that. But the reason we're having this conversation is because Florida did adopt these new standards, saying that we benefited from slavery, and as you're accurately stating, we had all the mental capacity that everyone else has. We were very capable of doing whatever we could if we were not being held back from doing so. So I'm just talking about the notion that, and regardless of who made it, I'm not, as I said, you don't have to talk about DeSantis or anyone else, but I'm just asking where you come down on those new standards that have been adopted in Florida, whether or not we benefited from slavery.
Well, I think it's an unfortunate use of words.
Okay.
When they say that we benefited from slavery.
Okay.
But I think that it's important to discuss the fact that we were intellectual beings that were capable of more than we're giving credit for, even when we use the word slave. And I think that it's the same today. When you talk about poor people, equate being poor with being stupid. And I think it's the same when you're talking about slavery, that they equate being a slave with being stupid, and none of that is true. So did we pick up marketable skills? Yes, we did. But is that somehow a benefit because they did us a favor? No, it isn't. But the fact that we did create these capabilities, I think, is important to discuss.
Well,
so I think it's unfortunate.
No, go ahead and finish.
So I think it's unfortunate that they use that use of words. But I will say that I agree that the language that is used and the way it's being used gives the wrong impression, especially when you're sitting there talking about the strides that we've made and we're still making today. And so in that capacity, I think that it was maybe a forced error or misuse in terms of how it could have been drawn. Okay. But I don't want to take away from the fact that we are capable of so much more, and even more than we're being given credit for, even in today's time.
Okay, so we agree so far. So what do you think about this tussle between two members, two conservatives? Um, One just for saying, can black conservatives, because you live in this world, right? That I don't live in.
Yeah.
So can black conservatives disagree with something like this without being attacked by the Republican establishment for doing so? Because what it comes off to me as, from the outside looking in, is Rep. Byron Donalds. He said he disagrees with the line, kind of how you said, and he wasn't bashing DeSantis, but DeSantis comes out and said, "Whose side are you on? Are you on the liberal side? Or are you on the side of the state of Florida?" And the notion that just because this black conservative disagreed with something that they said because he found it to be inaccurate, he's getting attacked for that. And so, can black conservatives disagree with the establishment of their party without being attacked for it? That's the question.
Well, the whole point of being a black conservative is you're a free thinker. That's number one. And being attacked, we're attacked on a daily basis. Who cares where it comes from, whether it's from the establishment, whatever the news. But that's not the reason why most black people that are conservatives are conservative. They're conservative based upon the policies and principles. It's not about being in some kind of agreement with if I'm doing what you say or that say. And I think there's a misunderstanding about black conservatives. Too many people think that we're doing what we're told and we're just the face of a party. We're not. There's a difference between a black conservative and a black Republican, and that is not always the same.
Well, what's the difference?
So it's the principle. The principles of it. There's conservatives, there's Republicans that may necessarily believe in, a hard party line, but a conservative may believe in limited government. There's Republicans that believe that we should have, there's conservatives that believe in no government intervention. There's conservatives, that's Republicans that believe that we need government intervention.
So which side do you fall on? Do you fall on the black conservative in the black conservative group or the black Republican group?
I'm a black conservative. I care about free market. I believe in limited government, free markets. I believe in less regulations. And there's a lot of Republicans that believe in a lot of regulations. In fact, they want more regulations, especially if it benefits their particular community or a different state. But the fact of the matter is there's no such thing as we all have to agree on the same principles and policies.
Right, now we agree. Now we agree there. So now where do you come down on since? Go ahead.
Oh, and let me say this: as a black person, I'm always about making sure that black people actually prosper, and that necessarily may not agree with whatever the party is doing and may not believe in what the conservatives are doing, but it's all about making sure that black people prosper.
Okay.
And so it has nothing to do with the principle. It has nothing to do with having to agree. There's a lot of regulations out there that are outrageous, especially when they're very harmful to black Americans. And I'll say the same thing to a black Republican that I'll say to a black Democrat. If it's impeding or creating a barrier for black people, we shouldn't be adopted because we can't be an afterthought.
Now, let me ask you about some of these government regulations, because a lot of Republicans are in favor of expanding government when it benefits what they want to do. They're not small government like they used to be, it seems to me. So let's talk about some of these abortion regulations. This is huge government. If the government is, trying to track women's periods and trying to, in some cases, with extreme Republicans, trying to abolish contraception, and I'm not assigning any of these beliefs to you, but I'm asking you, where do you come down on that regulation? Because that's one of the biggest regulations of all.
Well, let me say this about abortion, and this is my personal opinion. Okay, my background, if you are familiar with it, is in accounting and finance. Everything to me is about, cash is king, and most of these abortion regulations, most of abortion is an industry. Let me put it like this: Planned Parenthood made $1.3 billion. $1.3 billion
for providing essential services.
Year.
For providing essential services.
Providing abortion services is an industry like if I'm providing you a hotel room, if I'm Marriott, versus if I'm aborting a baby. It's about an industry. And so when I'm looking at abortion, is it really about healthcare services, or am I looking at each person that I'm providing the service to as a customer so that I can make more money? Now, my problem, and it's very problematic to me, is the fact that black people are the ones that are the primary targets of abortions. 60% of abortion clinics are located in black communities, even though we make up less than, 14%. So we're being targeted for the purpose of financial gain. When you look at adoption,
they're taking abortion clinics out of every neighborhood, and abortion clinics should be available everywhere. And people are going to get abortions based on need. And it's I think to say that the African American community is being targeted is a little bit kind of dodgy of the actual issue. And what I'm asking you is, like, do you think that people should be able to get abortions, or should they not? Because you're saying that abortion is an industry. Of course, the clinics that are providing abortions are going to make money because they charge for abortions, and
and they're killing babies.
They're not
and mostly black babies.
Well, that's where we disagree, because when you are an embryo, you're not a baby, and that's the issue. That's a religious belief that as soon as the sperm fertilizes the egg, that it's a baby. And when you're having an abortion at that stage, you're not killing a baby unless you're someone who
I've had 5 embryos, and I have 9 more grand embryos that are all living and walking.
Well, I've had many sperm that could have turned into embryos, but they didn't. And so we can take it as far back as you want to go, but that doesn't mean that you're killing babies.
Yeah, I mean, well, and it is a religious belief, and because I'm religious, then that's the way I would fall under. So it is a religious belief to me. I believe life at the conception. I believe that every life has some value to it. I think that there's been many of people. Steve Jobs would be one. Dave, Dave Thomas would be one. All of those would have been aborted kids that have gone on to do miraculous things. It's difficult for me to comprehend, but of course, that's your personal choice.
Right.
That's what we're saying. Would have someone would think that a life wouldn't have value to it. Whether it's impoverished or not impoverished, we know that the middle class is actually a new concept.
It's not always about poverty, though. I mean, a lot of times it's about the health of the mother, and as you just said, the main issue though is that it's a personal decision. But when the government grows to what you claim that you don't want it to do, to a point where it's controlling people's personal decisions like that, I feel like shouldn't that be something that you're against? If the government is mandating that you can't make that personal choice?
But is it mandating? Because there are states that you can have abortion all the way up until the 9th month.
The government, conservatives, Republicans are trying to mandate it. They're not able to mandate it because there are a lot of Democrats preventing them from doing it.
Well, the accuracy of the Supreme Court was that it should be in the hands of the state. Now, each individual in this country is free to live in any state they want to. If I don't agree with what's happening, Yes, we are.
No, because
We're
if you're
free
born
to live
into
in every state in the
poverty, if you're
country.
born into poverty in the South, and you are 2 or 3 states away from a state that has abortion access, then you're not able to move. A lot of us, until we reach a certain point of our lives, we are born where we're born, and we have the financial situation that we're born with until we are able to extricate ourselves. In many cases, some of us never are.
So you're saying, so again, we're going back to if you're poor, then you're stupid.
No. It's not
Because
just stupid.
you're
It's that
saying that if
it's
you're
not.
born
It has nothing to
into
do with
a-
intellect. It has nothing to do
you're-
with intellect, Donna.
you're-
It's about situations that you're
Is it-
unable to overcome. It's nothing. Intellect doesn't have anything to do with it.
Intellect, it's again, it's about the capacity of people that you believe that they're not intellectually capable of being able to figure out a way.
That's not
to be able to
that's
move from
absolutely
one.
not the issue.
So from 1905 to 1970, some 6 million Black Americans. It was one of the largest migrations in history. Moved from the South to the North, Midwest, South, and the West Coast because of better prosperity and jobs. These were poor sharecroppers. They moved, and you're saying today that people are not capable of that.
I'm saying people in certain circumstances.
Overcome.
I'm saying people in certain
Those
circumstances,
people that were
especially people who
in
are
those
young people,
same-
people who are 17, 18, they don't have the money to go 2 or 3 states away. We have about 20 seconds, so
They,
I
they
just
don't
want
have
to.
the information to be able to move, but the resources are available.
What resources? They don't. So, but you're Republicans though. Before we run out of time,
Okay.
they are trying to. If Ron DeSantis becomes president, he's going to make a national 6-week ban, and then it won't matter what state you're in, and that's the issue that I'm trying to get to, and if abortions become banned in enough states, then you really have to have a certain financial status to be able to get one. But I have about 15 seconds for you, Donna. Where can we keep up with you?
Oh, I'll be online. You can reach us at nationalcenter.org.
Okay, well, we really appreciate you joining us and having this discussion. We'll have to have you back and continue this dialogue.
Thank you.
All right, Donna. Thank you very much for joining us. When we come forward, we are going to continue. And if you're on hold and you want to keep holding, and we'll get to your call on the other side of this news, traffic, and sports update right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Areva time is the right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Esther Dillard, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Alabama woman who admitted to a kidnapping hoax is facing charges. Carly Russell faces 1 count of false reporting to law enforcement authorities and 1 count of falsely reporting an incident. She went missing for 2 days after she called 911 to report she saw a toddler on the side of a highway. The Justice Department is launching a civil rights investigation into claims the Memphis Police Department used excessive force against Black residents. The probe comes 7 months after the police beating death of Tyree Nichols. Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark said it's not based on any one instance of misconduct. And the Mega Millions jackpot is closing in on the $1 billion mark. The top prize up for grabs will be at least $910 million after no one matched all 6 winning numbers on Tuesday. And that's the latest. I'm Esther Dillard from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
In Sylmar, 405 northbound at the 5 had a crash blocking the left lane. They've got everything out of the lanes, but that 405 is crawled coming away from the 118. And on the 5 north at the 14, got a disabled vehicle in the carpool lane. Also in Sun Valley, 170 north right at Roscoe Boulevard, got a brand new accident. This is going to be blocking the 2 right lanes, and it is going to be stopped from Sherman Way.
MVP's bonus days are back at Lowe's. Right now, save $60 when you buy a DeWalt Impact Driver or Drill for just $99 each. Lowe's knows pros. Valid through 8/2.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. Visit jpmorganchase.com/racial equity and get the tools to help reach your financial goals.
Is this the tackle?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers are back in action tonight. They begin a 3-game series at Dodger Stadium against the Cincinnati Reds and their electrifying rookie, Ellie De La Cruz. Check out some of his highlights on YouTube. In the 7th inning of a July 8th game at Milwaukee, De La Cruz stole second, third, and home within 2 minutes after getting on base. First pitch tonight at 7:10. The Pac-12 Conference is in serious trouble. They may have to change their name to Pac-9. Only 9 teams will be in the conference after the spring of 2024. Colorado is leaving the Pac-12 to join the Big 12 Conference. USC and UCLA are also leaving the Pac-12 in 2024 to join the Big 10 Conference. If you have a talented high school athlete in the family and they're being recruited by a Pac-12 school, do some major research on that situation. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Need a fresh start? LADWP income qualified customers can get up to $15,000 tax-free to pay overdue water utility bills with the Low Income Household Water Assistance Program. Benefit amounts may vary and will not impact other benefits. Visit ladwp.com/cares and apply today. That's ladwp.com/cares.
Contracts, and grants. This is Rambo, and I'm back August 5th. Contracts, and grants. I'll be at the Westin Hotel, LAX, Saturday, August 5th. Me and my guests are fast-paced in the contracts and grants. They only speak 6 minutes each. I have LA County, I have the city, I even have Everett, the CEO of Lendistry, coming to talk to you guys. And for the first time ever, I have Metro's Director of Certification coming. We average over 700 attendees, so you know the rules. Parking's about $15 with the event validation, event, coffee, snacks, all free, paid for by Rambo and Lendistry. And yes, you can bring guests. So save your seat, DeonRambo.com. Listen, contract ready's only 2 hours from 10 a.m. to 12. But if you get there around 9:30, I'll probably be doing some Q&As and things like that before the events I never get a chance to do. I honestly keep saying, I don't know what's more important for LA businesses right now than local contracts. So I'm back, Westin Hotel, LAX, Saturday, August 5th. August 5th. It takes 2 minutes to register. DeonRambo.com. Go register now. DeonRambo.com.
Can you believe it's already back to school season? To get you ready, Chase is holding a family event at its Crenshaw Community Center branch on Wednesday, August 2nd from 4 to 8 p.m. We're giving away backpacks full of school supplies and other goodies to the first 1,000 attendees. There will be activities for the whole family, from financial health workshops to lawn games and crafts for all ages. Chase, we make your back-to-school dreams happen. J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And you're back on the Friday edition of Areva Martin in real time with Avi Bernard and Dr. Sean Fletcher, professor at San Jose State University, and Danny Griffin, educator, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker. We do have some callers on the line. Let's go to Fahima in Washington, D.C. Welcome, Fahima.
Greetings, Avi. Thank you for taking my call. Greetings to your guests, co-host. Good to see you, Brother Daniel. I'll make 3 quick points. I was trying to post in the chat. One, Planned Parenthood doesn't just provide abortion.
Exactly.
In those red states, can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I said exactly, yeah.
Yeah, in those red states that refuse to take the ACA, I have a friend who lives in Houston, Texas, and the only place they can get, even men go for prostate exams, pap smears, and breast exams. They provide preventive health, and abortion is not the only thing they provide. The other point I wanted to make is I've been a clinician for over 20 years. I've only had one instance where a client teenage mother was considering an abortion and she chose not to. Teenage pregnancies rates are down. And this whole thing, the hysteria around abortions is because, unfortunately, white people are not reproducing as much as black and brown people, and it's really a fear of a black planet. That's what's behind this. Lastly, I'm just going to be brief in terms of Project 21. When I was a student at Howard University, Project 21 was recruiting the best and the brightest students, and they pretty much turned them into those that were in the sunken place. I saw how they guarded them. I was at a conference for education, and the guy that was with them was like guarding what they could hear and the materials that they got. So I'm not going to go any more into it because your guest is no longer there. But the thing is that these people are not free thinkers. They've been brainwashed if they believe their rhetoric. And that's it.
Well, I appreciate you, Fahima. Thank you for calling in and for staying on hold. And you always bring thoughtful conversation to the show. So thank you for that. Let's go to Wesley in Los Angeles. Wesley, welcome to the show.
Hey, Avi and Daniel and Dr. Fletcher, blessings to you guys.
And to you.
I'm sorry, bless you as well. I don't agree with some of the things that were said. Unfortunately, we know as a black community, we're only 13% of the population. If you add up all the abortions since 1979, there's been about 18 million abortions of black people, of black babies. That's the whole demographic that we've lost over the years. Margaret Sanger, who basically started Planned Parenthood, is a known racist, and genocide was pretty much her plan, to have using poverty as a way to take away black lives. Poverty is not a reason to murder. It's not once you're out of the womb and once you're in the womb. It's not a reason to abort your baby unless there's some type of medical situation that's causing possibly the life of the mother. I totally disagree. As a person of faith, which I believe you are, Avi, you know that's true. If you murder a baby outside of the womb, 1 second after they're born, you're going to jail for murder.
Mm-hmm.
You can't murder a baby. I don't care how that baby was just inside the mother's womb. What's the difference?
The difference
No, it's not.
The difference is, Wesley, and I'm not probably a person of faith in the same way that you are, but
if you believe in life, you should be a person. Anybody that believes in life should be a person of faith.
Well, you're saying you're telling people what they should believe, and that's the first issue. And so, one thing I will say, and this is a point that I always make, is that a lot of people who don't want people to be able to have abortions aren't considering at all the life of the mother. They're not considering examples of rape or incest. And let me finish. Where they're not considering the examples of rape or incest. And a lot of times when people have abortions, they don't want to have abortions. They want the baby, but their life is in danger. And this happens a lot. And a lot of abortion activists, a lot of anti-abortion activists who believe that no one should be allowed to have one in any case, they don't give any consideration to that. And we are seeing women's lives. We're seeing women's lives. Hold on. You got a host. You got a whole show, sir. Oh yeah, exactly. I have a show for a reason. And so that if you wanna be part of the conversation, you're welcome. I'm gonna let you get a point after this, but just don't cut me off. So what I'm saying is, we're already seeing women's lives being affected by some of the bans in all of these red states. We're seeing women undergoing life-threatening circumstances because their doctors aren't allowed to provide them with care, because it would be considered some kind of an abortion when it's care that would affect whether they live or die. And so I understand that your belief is that it's a baby in there. I'm not sure if it's from the moment that the sperm touches the egg. That's not a baby. And so
it's a life. It's a life.
So is sperm a life?
When they come together and it creates a life, at the moment of conception, it begins. at that point, sir.
It's not. It's not a life. It's not a life at that point. That's your belief. That's your religious belief.
Well, anyway, well, again, you will concur that when a baby comes out of the body, if that mother kills that baby, are they responsible for a murder? Yes or no?
Of course. That's a whole different point.
Okay,
though.
so
it's a whole different point.
No, it's not a whole different point.
It actually is.
That same life was inside the mother, moving around. Is that a life? Yes or no?
Wait, I'm sorry. Say it again.
The baby is that same baby that was killed outside the womb, and the mother's charged with murder, and then 10 minutes before that, the baby was in the mother's stomach moving around. Is that the same life?
You're not going to abort a baby 10 minutes before it's born.
Well, they're doing 9 months. Well, they're doing late-term abortions.
Only late-term abortions happen because the woman's life is in jeopardy. That's the only late-term abortions that happen.
As people.
But do you care about that? Hold on. Do you care about that? Do you care about the woman's life being in jeopardy, or do you just don't care at all? The baby should be born regardless.
I just mentioned that there could be reasons why the mother is having health issues and concern. I said that initially, Lavi. You missed that.
I did miss that. But that's why I want to make sure I'm clear on that, because a lot of times. Okay, so should there be exceptions?
You have the whole show. Let me talk, brother.
Should there be? Oh, see, Andy cut you out. I wouldn't even. Andy got that trigger finger. Listen, man. We had you on for, I don't know, 8-10 minutes. So not everyone is guaranteed to just be able to talk on the whole show. I welcomed you to be part of the conversation, but, if you're trying to take over the show, that's not going to happen. If you want to apply to be a radio host, and you're welcome to do that. And if you get a show, you can run it any way you want. But Dr. Fletcher, I know you've been on hold a long time. I appreciate your patience. I want to get your thoughts on anything that has been said in the last 20 minutes or so since you've been on hold.
There's a lot to unpack. I'll go back to your guest, Ms. Jackson. A couple things that she talked about that I just want to respond to quickly. First of all, the conversation around what's going on down in Florida, and quite honestly, just a disingenuous framing of the conversation, to put it mildly. For her to say that it's an unfortunate use of language is flat out disingenuous, to put it very lightly. Ron DeSantis said it was a misunderstanding. He said that talking about slavery as a benefit, they meant it that slaves acquired skills that they used in life in spite of slavery, when in actuality, the specific language of that mandate does not say anything in spite of. It specifically puts the onus on the enslaved without mentioning anything around the system that enslaved them, which again, if perhaps that was an isolated situation, that again, your guest didn't mention anything of the like. In context, if that was an isolation and he didn't have a litany of moves and laws in place in Florida that have been much of the same, trying to erase Black history, and then in the process, sanitizing the ills of slavery and fortifying the institution and those who put the institution of slavery in place. It is a very, very dangerous precedent set. It is a very, very dangerous narrative to perpetuate, because again, when this is on the books and educators like myself down in Florida have to go and operationalize this with their jobs on the line, like many of the other laws that he put in place and repudiated over the last 3 years, it's not going to have that convenient caveat that DeSantis said yesterday that we meant in spite of. No, it's going to be the letter of it. And the letter of it says that instruction includes how slaves develop skills which, not in spite of, in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. Kids will in perpetuity learn of the benefits of the atrocity that the institution of slavery was and continues to reverberate in this country. And there will be no Ron DeSantis caveat that's out there. So for her to position it that way was anything, it was beyond off-putting. It was flat out disingenuous. The other point that I'll quickly make that was fascinating to me, and I've oftentimes, I have Republican friends. Again, a lot of folks believe, unfortunately, that everyone who is conservative is radical. They're far right. I'm totally comfortable with agreeing to disagree. Now, with limits, however, all right? This whole run up to 2016 and beyond, radical Republican Trumpian thinking, that oftentimes has gotten us off base of having some constructive political discourse, all right? Now, a black Republican, listening to her, Ms. Jackson, go back and forth between the conservative ideals of fiscally driven mandates and narratives versus social responsibility was fascinating. And it was somewhat indicative, I would believe, of the internal struggle of a person of a historically marginalized and disenfranchised identity who is part of a party that has historically and continues to not really reflect those ideals that you come up with. Their conservative ideals do not reflect, nor do they promote anything largely around the empowerment and betterment of your historically marginalized identity, which in her case is African American, I do believe.
Yep.
She moved back and forth between the selective nature, and it's the last part that I observed. She again put the onus on the person. When you talked about abortion, when you all sparred on abortion, she put the onus back on the person, saying that so you don't believe they're smart enough to be able to, and not the system again.
Right.
All of that. The same thing with slavery. Oh, you all don't believe that they were smart enough? I reject that notion. Instead of the institution of slavery, she kept moving back and forth between this internal struggle of should I lean social, or should I lean conservative? And the last part that she mentioned, she leaned on religion as a reason to promote many of the conservative ideals, as your last caller did, which you have to be very careful with trying to because I'm a person of faith myself, with hinging political arguments and legislative arguments around religion, because as we know, this country and our Constitution and many of our quote-unquote founding fathers did many atrocities under the guise of religion and Christianity. And many of those were perpetuated. But oftentimes we can't divorce that conversation. We're very selective in when we wield religion and legislation and actual the legislation of how we have constructed and governed this nation. Very selective, as was Ms. Jackson in many of the different ideals that she drew from and pulled from when she was making some of her arguments. It seemed to be a significant internal conflict.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad that we gave you a chance to breathe, because you just, you really, you held a lot in. So I appreciate you.
Oh man, it was a lot.
You waiting?
I was taking notes and everything.
I know that was difficult for you. I know that was difficult. But Danny, I'm gonna give you a chance to get something out when we come forward, right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Civil rights leader John Lewis honored with the Forever Stamp. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News. Civil rights activist and Congressman John Lewis was revealed as the late public figure who's being honored on the United States Postal Service newest Forever Stamp. Lewis, who died 3 years ago, is a civil rights hero who was in the United States House of Representatives for Georgia's 5th Congressional District from 1987 until his death in 2020. From the Nashville sit-ins in the 60s to the Freedom Rides to the March on Washington to being a pillar of the civil rights movement, Lewis was a force who deserves such an honor. And for $9.90 on USPS.com, you can purchase your book of 15 stamps that honors the life and memory of Lewis. I'm Aisha Cairo for KBLA Talk 1580, and that is your K-Black Minute News.
In our community, mental health struggles can sometimes go unnoticed. The suicide rate among Black youth has risen faster than any other ethnic group. Only 1 in 3 African Americans who need mental health care receives it. African American women are only half as likely as their Caucasian counterparts to seek professional mental health services. Even those who guide us spiritually can sometimes face their own challenges. 45% of pastors say they've experienced depression or burnout to the extent they need to take a leave of absence from ministry. As people of faith, it's time to acknowledge it's okay not to be okay. You can pray and get help. Visit normalizehelp.org for more information and resources. Join us in raising mental health awareness in our community. Funded by the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health and the Champion Counseling Center of Faithful Central Bible Church.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands for Unity and Healing. African Focus Incorporated is a nonprofit organization based in California that focuses on the growth and well-being of Africans all around the world. Their mission is to promote the well-being of people of African descent through knowledge and appreciation of one another by building a bridge of love and understanding. African Focus Incorporated strives for cultural, educational, and economic growth. They're the organization behind the African Family Induction Ceremony, African Goodwill Awards, African Focus Trailblazer Tours, African Dance Competition, and Showcase Los Angeles, Family Day, Good News Windows Microfinance Project, and more. To volunteer, travel with African Focus, or to attend one of their community building events, please call 310-676-7730. That's 310-676-7300. Or visit AfricanFocus.org. This is a diaspora-wide community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
We're back on the Friday edition of Areva Martin in real time. We have a few minutes left here. We're joined by Danny Griffin, educator, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker, and Dr. Sean Fletcher, professor at San Jose State University. All right, Danny, I know you were waiting a long time there too, so I want to give you an opportunity to share any thoughts you had about anything you heard over that last, however long it's been, 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, so first of all, I don't really get into the pro-choice abortion type issue. That's up to the woman. I'm not in legal. I'm not running for office. None of that. In my faith, Christianity, we know, how we believe. But in terms of the Ron DeSantis comment, statement about the curriculum and all that. Under any circumstances, if a person is held against their will, you're mutilated, you're raped, you're not getting wages, whatever the situation is, slavery benefited someone else, right? At the end of the day. So regardless of what trade I learned, because most of the time we're talking about trade, right? I'm a blacksmith. I'm this, I'm farming, I'm picking cotton, whatever it was. But at the end of the day, we built Georgetown University. We built universities.
We built the pyramids.
Plantation.
We knew blacksmith skills before we got over
there. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, you go to Africa, people are kings and queens. People were doing miraculous things in terms of building everything before you were subsequently taken to another country and put in bondage. And now, after the fact, you want to justify and say, oh, you learned how to do this, and we're going to let everybody of all races know in this country, in this state, that it was a beneficial in certain areas. No, we don't need to know that. The elephant's in the room. The fact is, we're under bondage, and we're benefiting you. Like, you're making money off this. Generational money, by the way, because many of these families, I mean, I could date back my family to the 1840s. So imagine what other families are doing in this country. They know great-great-grandfather owned this land, and now he's CEO, Fortune 500, whatever. And people are benefiting off slavery today, to be honest with you.
Oh, absolutely. Families, in many cases, their familial wealth was built during the slave years.
Yeah, and you still have names out there, and I'm not saying some of these names, but certain families have stayed around for hundreds of years and built wealth here. I mean, many of these barons and these railroad barons and tycoons.
You're talking about we did a show. Areva did a show a week or so ago about universities that benefited from slavery.
Yeah,
and those are million and billion dollar institutions.
And Georgetown apologized, I guess, and acknowledged it, right? So I mean, under any circumstances, I'm not down with that. You know, and I like Florida too, certain parts. So, right now I'm protesting. I'm protesting right now until it's safe to go, because we put a travel ban. I've never heard of African Americans put a travel ban from the United States within our own country. The travel ban is out.
There was zero silver lining to slavery. That is the bottom line. Zero silver lining, and that's what they are saying, is that there was and there wasn't, and that's the bottom line. Man, time flies. I thought we were going to have a chance to talk a little bit of sports, but, you know, you start to have the conversation about abortion, man. It's
it gets tricky.
It gets real hot. But we'll have you all back in a couple weeks, of course. And Dr. Fletcher, where can we find you online?
You can check out my website, SeanJFletcher.com, and the same handles on social media, Sean J. Fletcher.
And that's Sean, SHAUN. Danny Griffin, we know you're on Facebook.
I joined Instagram to watch D-Nice. We were low. Hey, I didn't even have the Netflix account at the time.
Oh, are you on Instagram now?
Man, it's bootleg. Okay. It's 723, all kind of numbers. I don't post. I've never posted. It was just for D-Nice, baby. I'm old.
So it looks like somebody's burner account. Okay.
Yeah, you find me. I'll be at Quincy Jones tonight, Hollywood Bowl, baby.
Okay.
An icon in the making, 90 years old.
Oh, he's already an icon.
He was already, but I get a chance to see him.
He's a living legend is what he is. But appreciate you, gentlemen. Have a great weekend, and we will definitely talk soon. And especially thanks for being so patient and waiting while we had to flush a lot of that out and let people get their thoughts out. So thank you both for that. The Raw Report is coming up next at 6 p.m. It will be a little bit of a different conversation than we were just having. It's the latest in entertainment news, and Robin always brings it. So enjoy that and enjoy your weekend. I'm Avi Bernard, and I am gone.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Esther Dillard, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Biden administration is asking the Supreme Court to reinstate regulations on so-called ghost guns. A federal judge in Texas recently put a pause on the new rules after several legal challenges. The Justice Department is now urging the High Court to put the ruling on pause as an appeal plays out. A date is now set for the murder retrial of a Florida rapper.